John B. Watson, born on January 9, 1878, Travelers, Carolina States. John B. Watson was an American psychologist who popularized the scientific theory of behaviorism.
John B. Watson famously claimed that if he were to be given a dozen healthy infants, he could shape them into anything: doctors, lawyers, artists, beggars, or thieves, regardless of their background or genetic predispositions. First, he completed experiments with 8-month-old Albert. He later applied his theory in raising his own children. In essence, he applied the scientific method to human psychology, which he called behaviorism. With the Little Albert experiment, Watson applied the process of classical conditioning to program the baby boy afraid of a white lab rat. Earlier, Pavlov demonstrated that conditioning can trigger biological responses that are inherited genetically. Watson hypothesized that we can instill new behaviors that were not inherited.
Also, this is one of the most controversial experiments in the history of psychology. As you have seen on the first part of the actual footage, Watson showed to the baby a monkey and a dog. So the baby shows no fear towards the animals being presented to him. Little Albert showed no fear and he was very comfortable with the dog.
To conduct the experiment, Watson and his assistant, Rosalie Rayner, placed the boy in a room where a white lab rat was allowed to roam around. First, the boy showed no fear.
Little Albert showed no fear against the white rat. Afterwards, Watson presented a rabbit to Little Albert. He still showed no fear against the rabbit, and he was very comfortable playing with it.
Rayner struck a steel bar with a hammer. Every time Albert reached out to touch the rat, scaring Albert and causing him to cry. They continued to do this every time the boy reached for the rat. Eventually, Albert tried to get away from the rat, illustrating that he had been conditioned to fear the rat. Weeks later, Albert showed distress towards any furry object, showing that his conditioning had not only been sustained, but also generalized.
In the year 2009, researchers proposed that Little Albert was a boy named Douglas Moretti. Sadly, researchers found that the child died at the age of 6 due to hydrocephalus. In the year 2012, researchers proposed that Moretti suffered from neurological impairments at the time of the Little Albert experiment, and that Watson may have knowingly misinterpreted the boy as healthy and a normal child. He believed that people have 3 fundamental emotions: fear, rage, and love, and he wanted to find out whether a person could be conditioning this feeling to a stimulus, and that's why he has come up with the Little Albert experiment.
Watson assumed that our behavior is either a reflex evoked by a stimulus or consequence of our individual history of earlier exposure to reinforcement and punishment paired with our current motivational states and stimuli. He thought of psychology as an objective branch of natural science. Its goal, the prediction and control of behavior. Like his fellow behaviorists, he believed that the environment in which the child is raised determines intelligence, temperament, and personality. Watson published The Psychological Care of Infant and Child. In his book, He advised parents not to touch their children too often and keep an emotional distance so as not spoil them. Playing with children, he warned, would interrupt their routines. A happy child doesn't cry or seek attention.
Watson, who had a difficult childhood, wanted to be good father and applied his method to his four children, John, Mary, James, and William. Unfortunately, things didn't turn out planned. John complained throughout his entire life about intolerable headaches and died early in 50s. Mary developed a drinking problem and attempted suicide like her brother James. William took his life at age 40. Watson allegedly admitted that he was regretting writing about child rearing as he realized that he didn't know enough about to do so. So, toward to his death of his life in 1958, he became reclusive and prior to his death, he burned all of his recent papers.
Behaviorism is a philosophy of education. Behaviorism is a branch of psychology that, when applied to a classroom setting, focuses on conditioning student behavior with various types of behavior reinforcement and consequences called operant conditioning. Under behaviorism, teachers should present what behavior is wanted. Next, teachers want students to do their homework, study for their test, and have a good classroom behavior. And lastly, teachers should have positive reinforcement, praise or reward the students for acting good and succeeding in the class with effort. Under behaviorism, students should pay attention to what the teacher says they want their students to learn. And also, the students should strive to get their rewards in the classroom and at home.